question or topic is on the voice of the customer. So when does the voice of the customer enter into your projects, and how do you really listen to the voice of the customer? Rowena?
Beginning, middle, end, frequently, always. Especially in the healthcare world, the consumer healthcare world. So this is products that you can walk into Walgreens and buy, or in my previous life at Procter when I worked in other categories. You've got to touch base with them. It's constant. It needs to be constant. They're the ones ultimately going to make the decision. They're the ones ultimately going to put their money, on the give it to the cashier and take home the product that you have developed for them. And so making sure that you connect in with them all the time is critical. And part of the reason I think is, more than anything else, we get into our own bubbles. And scientists can really get into their own bubbles. And you really want to avoid the scientists going on about this cool technology and the consumer's like, yeah, so what? What does it do for me? And there are, it can happen both ways. One of the stories I love is that text messaging was originally put into mobile phones by the engineers so that they could talk to each other. And they weren't going to tell the company about it. And they didn't see it as a feature. And I don't know, but I certainly know that I communicate with my children almost exclusively by text message today. So that was an idea where when they put it in, it was a technology idea. But when they started talking to consumers and started understanding consumers, they started realizing this was a really powerful thing they had. And so that constant iteration, that constant discussion becomes really, really important. Partly because also consumers often don't know what they want when it's really innovative. They can't describe something they have no knowledge about. So you have to have the conversation with them and feed them clues, and that idea of co-development, co-understanding becomes really critical. So to me, the consumer, the customer, both, and or have to be in the room pretty much all the time.
So at Tupperware, we're kind of a different kind of company. Most of you have heard about the Tupperware party. We have access to, I don't know what it is, it's almost like 3.5 million sales force. So we do, we put on everyone's annual objectives that they have to actually attend a Tupperware party at least once a quarter. They don't have to reveal who they are, but the interesting thing is just to kind of sit back and listen. And to see what everyone's reaction is to new products being presented. So that's at one level. At another level, we do quite a number of ethnographic research studies. A number of years ago, we had focused on Latin America because these were some of our emerging markets. We actually did a whole series of what we call home visits. So we would kind of work with the sales force, line up some of the homes to visit. It's interesting because the project teams, they all want to crowd in, but people don't want armies in their homes. So you have to kind of divide them up, and you've got to kind of, keep it to a level that makes a lot of sense. The key is to kind of observe. You don't want to ask too many questions, and you certainly don't want to prepare them. The important thing is, before you come to a home visit, you want to make sure that they don't clean their homes and clean their kitchens. The whole point is to actually see, how they actually live, how they actually use the spaces that are available with them, for them. How they store their food, how they prepare their food, what do they do with their waste and their garbage, and then look for, gaps, look for opportunities where we can introduce a new product to make their lives easier. So we do that at that level as well. The third level, which we're just kind of getting into, is that there are resources available that do this type of video ethnographic research. I don't know whether any of you have ever tried these, but we like these things a lot because when you're working on new technologies that are maybe a little bit more outside of what customers are used to, especially from our offering of products, we can get early feedback. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and maybe within about a week or so. The turnaround is extremely fast.
Yeah, just to build on that, we've used a similar technology, and we had a new package that we were going to offer a product in, and so we were having people use it for the first time on the video and talk while they used it. And they had usage instructions, but it was really interesting to see how some of them didn't read the usage instructions. They said they had them and they put them down, and then they started trying to open it, so that was already a good signal. Another one was they read the usage instructions and they actually read them incorrectly. So that was another it's kind of like, we got to think about how do we write these in a way that people don't read them incorrectly. And my favorite was, we had an individual, this is a package, with a product in it. He had his penknife out trying to get this thing open, and I can assure you that was not the way it was designed. But by doing the video, sessions, we found all that out up front, and we could make adaptations and work on how do we make how do we make the usage instructions better and stuff up front before we actually put out real product into, these were prototypes, but before we put out products. So.